Hey everyone, David here. It's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. time, and of course, with that time comes my review of the latest episode. This time it is for episode 4, I Spy. And of course, spoilers for the episode if you have not seen it. The episode has Coulson and his team investigating a series of heists in which they all involve this woman that has somehow, some way managed to steal, diamonds or any form of currency or anything that is valuable from these different locations, but they all have a particular a characteristic that makes it feel like it's S.H.I.E.L.D's job to take care of this. Now, this is probably my most favorite episode since the pilot, and for a number of reasons. One is that the main story of this episode, involving the woman that is pulling off these heists and how she's being controlled through her robotic eye, and especially with the twist at the end in which the person that has been controlling her all along is also being controlled by somebody else. Totally creepy. I was like, wow, this is something out of a, I don't want to say a horror movie, but a very tense thriller. One where it's very eerie that somebody is playing Big Brother on you, but they're literally they're literally spying on you using something that you use, your eye. And the creepiness of that storyline was amplified, in my opinion, by having this episode push the envelope for the series in terms of violence. You don't actually see these acts happening, but you see a guy's hand get chopped off, and you see the stump in the opening, the cold opening of this episode. And later on, you see somebody's eye getting taken out, of course, filmed at an angle so that it's not very graphic and bloody. But still, somebody's getting their eye yanked out, and you see the cords, trailing to the person's eye. And then later on, you see a guy's eye go, and then it fills up with blood, and then he just drops on the ground dead. I was like, wow, guys, this is ABC, not AMC. So not only was it cool to see these elements in this episode, but I loved and respected the writers and producers and the director for pushing the envelope a little bit with this episode. Skye and Ward become even more likable in this episode compared to the other episodes, mainly because they don't exactly do anything to negate their characters. Like, they don't do anything that is either very stoic for Ward or very annoying for Skye. And due to that lack of negative characteristics, the characters seem more likable, especially during the final climactic mission of the episode, in which Ward is running around with his glasses and his suit looking like Archer, being all badass, and Skye being a valuable asset to the group by helping out with the things that she knows about hacking, about technology, and all that stuff. And I like the little subplot with Coulson about how this woman that is pulling off all these heists used to be a former trainee under his wing, and how it has come full circle, and he feels sympathy for her, and he feels that it's his duty to bring her to justice without having to kill her. And I like this because I liked it more than how he felt in the pilot episode about how he must keep Mike Peterson alive. I like this one better because it trailed back to his past, whereas in the pilot it was just a new case for him, but because he's different, like it was hinted at in this episode, it just looked a little more sympathetic than it did in the pilot episode with a character that is not only introduced to us but also introduced to Coulson. We've never seen him, so it was just a little more heartfelt with this one because this woman has a past with Coulson. And well, on the subject of that, I love that they brought back the little thing from the pilot episode in which we don't know what exactly happened with Coulson while he was in Tahiti, and it makes me hopeful in the writers that they're actually going to go ahead and keep this story trait and try to explore more without oversaturating it, and at the same time making it a really cool thing to grasp onto story-wise for the rest of the season, especially now that the show has been ordered for a full season pickup. My only complaints about the episode would have to be that, once again, getting a little repetitive. It didn't exactly strike the same bells and whistles as the other episodes did, especially how that third episode struck the same beats and notes that the first two episodes did, but it did follow a similar structure to those other episodes. And who knows, I might end up giving up and saying, you know what, I'll accept it, because other shows do this kind of thing where it's a different case every week while at the same time resolving it in the same fashion, like the CSI shows or Law and Order. They all do the same thing, and I like those shows, CSI more than Law and Order. But I like them. So maybe the same thing will happen with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, where right now it's starting to bug me, but eventually I'm just going to come back around and end up loving the show, despite the fact that it gets repetitive every week. And the second thing would be that I'm getting a little annoyed by Sourpuss Agent May. Her being this hardened veteran and, you know, just having this very stilted face while at the same time being a little smirky towards the rest of the team while still managing to deliver a few good lines and at the same time being badass, worked in the pilot as well as that second episode and a little bit in the third. But by this episode, she's given almost nothing to do except to be in the background and do this. I mean, I think it was in my review for episode 2, I believe, in which I compared Agent May to be the Vegeta of the group, Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. But Vegeta emoted, alright? He even went as far to laugh and smile. Now, granted, he will laugh and smile in an evil way towards very terrible things, but he emoted. I mean, I know that this woman could act. It's not Ming-Na Wen, I believe that's the actress's name. It's not her fault, because I have seen her in other stuff. I think she had a somewhat reoccurring role in the George Lopez show, because she does seem familiar. She looks like that kind of familiar type of character actress. But I can tell it's not the actress's fault. It's just the writers not giving her enough to do to become a more likable character, and being directed in a way where she's just being told to have the same face throughout the entire episode. Please do better stuff with her, as well as Fitz and Simmons, because those guys are just doing the same thing in all these episodes, and I'm kind of wishing that just something interesting would happen with them. Still, the stuff that I loved about this episode towered the things that I didn't like, and it made the episode a lot more enjoyable. My only worry would be that in this episode, they set up the little subplot about this other organization that is controlling people for their own benefit. And in the previous episode, they set up the main supervillain that S.H.I.E.L.D is going to go up against, you know, Graviton. Which I didn't think was his actual name when I made the little joke in my episode 3 review when I called him Graviton Man. Apparently his name is Graviton. And he is from the comics. So I think that was actually pretty cool that they took something from the comics and went ahead and put that in the show rather than putting it in one of the Marvel Cinematic movies, you know, that's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They set that up in episode 3, and in episode 2 they introduced an artifact that holds Tesseract technology. What is worrying me is that they're gonna set up all these different ideas to go with the show, but they're never actually gonna go through with them, and they just won't know what to do with all of them. How can I hold all these ideas? I've seen other shows do that, and it didn't really work out very well with them. Still, I have faith in the writers so far, and I still stick with what I said before about this episode being my most favorite since the pilot. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it the same rating that I did with the pilot, an 8.6 out of 10, which is a B. At least I believe that was the same rating I gave the pilot. I'll be back next week with my review of episode 5, and until next time, guys, see you later.